Greetings. Today on Leaders and Learners, we sit down with Kaneshi Hart, a strategic people ops people person who is transforming how organizations grow and support one another. It is my pleasure to bring you this woman. Get ready for an honest conversation about leadership that leads and work in workplaces and honors the people as assets. Welcome, Kaneshi Hart. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Tanya. Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so thrilled to have you today. I want to start off though with asking you, how on earth did you go from playing basketball to being a speaker and a podcast host? Because so many people think it's just easy to jump into these roles, to jump on stages, to just put a mic in front of their face and everything will be so amazing. But it's not that easy. So let the people know how you got from the court to the stage.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I played basketball in college, all the way through college, so middle school through college. And there used to be these t-shirts, Tanya, you all listening, you all might remember them, that used to say basketball is life.
Mm.
And when I was in college, I didn't really understand. I thought, yeah, it is my life, right? I spend more than a 40-hour work week in the gym and traveling and doing all the things on top of getting an education. So that 40 hours was not including studying and being in class. And so I thought, okay, this is my life. But as I left school, went out into the world, went into the corporate world where, because of, thank God, first, I always give God honor. And secondly, my parents, that upbringing. But then thirdly, what I learned in basketball, I moved into leadership roles in corporate America pretty quickly. I learned that the skills that you learn and you execute in basketball and in any sport, they transition to life. And so those things, discipline. And what does that look like, right? It's consistently doing the same thing over when it gets boring, because you said you're supposed to do there, you said you're supposed to do it, you do it, you have a schedule, you stick to it, a routine. And learning those types of skills in basketball is what propelled me to, as I went through corporate America, was in corporate America almost 20 years, in leadership positions, majority of those years. And then stepping out on my own, because God called me out of the corporate world. And how he called me out, Tanya, was he laid me off 3 times in 5 years, but that's a whole nother story. Um, and so, yeah. And so up on that, then saying, okay, then if I'm not going to be here, if I'm not going to be in corporate America, what I'm going to do? Then the Lord saying, well, I have a stage for you, from the podcast and from speaking to other people about what you've learned, not only in your corporate world, but from the basketball world as well. And so it's been a transition of learning the lessons that come from the enjoyment and also the hard part of being an athlete, and especially at the college level, to going through the trials and triumphs of corporate, to getting kicked out of corporate and saying, okay, what I love to do, which is share a message with people and see how that can transform their lives, I can do via podcasting and speaking about things that I have been blessed to learn through my experience. And I will say this, Tanya, I love to speak more than I love to coach, because I was a player. And I remember being a player, right? Middle school, high school, but a college player where my coach's job depended upon 18 to 21-year-olds to make smart decisions. I said I would never. No. And so, so I said, coaching, I will coach to an extent, but I prefer speaking, because when you don't do what you're supposed to do, and I done told you to do it 4 times, I haven't quite gotten that patience yet. So we're still working on that aspect.
Well, good luck with that piece. One thing I know for sure is that high performance is important in sports from the youngest stages all the way through your collegiate career. But what you're doing now, I want you to tell me, how do you support high performers who feel undervalued or unseen in organizations that move slow, resist change, or lack vision?
Oh, that's a good question. So it comes down to a couple of things, Tanya. One, you have to know that you have to hold yourself accountable, right? And it's not a matter of what is somebody else doing. So if your organization is not moving at the space or the pace that you want, or your organization is not operating at the level that you think that they should be operating at. That is your cross to bear, but it's not your stance. And so you can't allow that to be your standard. Somebody else's standard is not your standard. And that's what leaders, high performers, which typically high performers are leaders, have to know. I think about, and I'll just use Caitlin because she's most recent and everybody knows about her. Caitlin, who is in the WNBA now, who was Iowa's superstar women's basketball, face of women's basketball for a while in the college level. She stayed after and shot how many thousands of shots every single day. That's the standard for her. That wasn't the standard after you get done with practice, after you get done with conditioning, after you get done with strength training, after you get done with watching film. That was the standard for everybody else, but her standard was different. And so the same for high performers. When you are stepping into a leadership role or you're in a leadership role or you're a high performer, if your company is not doing what you want them to do, you do what you believe and what you want to do, and people will catch up. Either they will catch up or they will squeeze you out, which is good because that means it's not a fit for you anyway. And you need to be pushed into a place that is a better fit for you. And so how do you do that? What does that look like? One, you have to have a plan. So Tanya, you've got to say, I know exactly what I want. I know exactly how I want my things to look. One thing that I remember is in one of my roles as a leader, I had a few years ago, this happens, people, you get fired from jobs. I got fired from a couple of jobs. And it was because the reason I got fired from the job that pushed me into the role and story I'm about to tell you is because my standard was higher than theirs. I was trying to do things that they were like, we don't do stuff like that. Well, y'all should be. Okay, well, we're not comfortable with that. We can't keep you here. That's fine with me. So after getting fired from a director role, the next job I found moved me 2 levels down, like huge pay cut, 2 levels down, back to a frontline manager. I hadn't managed frontline employees in like almost a decade. No worries. You do what you got to do. In that role, one of the KPIs that the company had, I told my team, I said, we're going to crush this. Like this expectation seems extremely low for what the process was. Tanya, when I tell you, my team led the company for either 2 or 3 years in that particular KPI, just because I set a standard that my team was going to go above and beyond what the normal was. And because of that, we won so many awards. Because of that, I had so many employees who were promoted to higher positions because they got the recognition for that performance. And it was all because my company wasn't, their level of care, their standard, their progress wasn't as quick as the expectation I had for myself. But I set my standard and it benefited not only me, I got promoted later, obviously. It benefited my team. And we also got lots of prize rewards and money for this. And so I encourage individuals to say, hey, make a plan for what you want your level of standard to be, regardless of what's around you. And then figure out how to politically correctly work it in, but still work it in. And then go after it because people will catch up. People will rise to the standard you set for them. Don't be the person who lowers yourself to the standard that already is.
Do you think that's a coaching thing? Do you think that's something that you learned in sports, really? Because every coach has a different standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every program that you play for may have had a different standard, or even depending on the school, their purpose for their teams may have looked different. Just curious as to how much of your athletic experience has transformed into your professional experience. Did you catch that? Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
Okay, now I can hear you. I heard intermittent pieces. Okay,
Okay.
so I heard
How,
intermittent pieces.
how much of your
My connection's
athletic
like that.
experience,
Ask me.
how much of your athletic experience with different coaches, different programs transform into what you now do professionally?
Hmm. Honestly, I would say there's one coach and one program that really helped me to transition into what I do now. And I absolutely have to give credit to my parents. They amazing. God bless me with great parents. And from a speaking standpoint, and I'll bring in the athletic program in a moment. From a speaking standpoint, this has been natural for me, praise God, since I was a kid. My mom is the type that when we were in Sunday school, in church, when I was 4, she made sure that I was giving the report at Sunday school for what we talked about in Sunday school. You know, I grew up in the old times when Sunday school still existed. I don't know if people still do that or not, but you have Sunday school before actual service starts, about 45 minutes. And then at the end, the children, all in the different classes, have to give a report from what they learned during the Sunday school class. And so you have to speak. You have to be able to present and tell people what I learned. You actually have to be paying attention. And it was a normal expectation every Sunday. Yes, we had to let the other children give their reports as well if I were in the same class as them, but my mother expected us to give a report. So I learned to speak in the church at a young age. So it became very comfortable for me because I was blessed to also get good feedback. There was correction, but there was also praise, right? And so that was the foundation for my speaking, being comfortable with it. Like my best friend hates public speaking. She hates interacting, all that stuff. So I know that for some people it's a fear, but for me, it's an enjoyment. From the athletic standpoint, I had one coach who, Tanya, I love my coach. He was only with me in high school for either 1 or 2 years, but he was the type that there are no such thing as excuses. You're going to work as hard as you need to work. You're going to work more than you think you can normal is or what you think you can do. There's always more you can do, and your body can do it. Your mind can do it. And he was that type of coach. And that type of consistent, persistent effort that he required us to put in through not only how he encouraged us and yelled at us, but also through what he required of us from a physical standpoint is what has allowed me to continue to push and to be able to propel into the world of what I'm doing now. And I'll give you a quick story. So I was selected as one of 15 of the top high school all-star athletes in Kentucky, which is where I'm from. And you know, for people who have had that rank, that's not a big deal. But it's when you're in high school, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm the top 15 of the seniors of Kentucky of a state. You had to go, you had to try out. So it was an invitation only. So it wasn't as though your name was picked from your performance for the year and you automatically selected. No, you had to be invited and then you had to try out. And I recall correctly, the tryout was either 4 or 5 games over the course of 2 days. Mm-hmm. Not easy. Okay. Like make sure you're in shape. But this particular coach, I remember he wasn't my high school coach at the time, but he was so well respected that he was there at the tryout. And I remember I think it was either the second or the third game, second half of the game. And I'm tired. Like you've been running up and down a court for at least a game and a half, maybe 2.5 games. And you're trying out. So it's not like we subbing, you playing, because we need to see what you can do for a full, I think it was probably like, it wasn't 40 minutes, but it was a full game, right? Like maybe 30 minutes or so.
Yes.
So I'm tired. And I remember Tanya, him screaming from the side of the court, "You're not tired. Tired is not in your vocabulary." When I tell you, that has sustained me. And those are the things that you get, I think. You only get them in sports, right? It had to be the perfect scenario. I'm exhausted, but I'm chasing after a dream that will solidify the talent that I say I have, that I've shown over the year, that I want these people to know. I want my name to be listed on something that can never be changed. I want to be a part of this team. And it takes work to do it, but I still have to earn it. And then you have those moments where, yes, you overcome. Yes, you have a coach, you have a mentor who pours into you. And even if it was just that saying, I remember it clear as day. It has sustained me because when I get tired, when things don't go well, when I'm pursuing a client and it's not working, or I get a no, or what I'm marketing is not getting the response that I want, I remember, Tanya, you're not tired. Tired is not in your vocabulary.
So I'm gonna give you a little pushback because one of the first things you said is that you enjoy speaking more than coaching. But you telling me about how his coaching empowered you. I saw something different in you when you were talking about that. So I don't know. I think you like the coaching piece because it allows for you to help people push through some of their more difficult challenges, which usually, from a professional standpoint, are interpersonal challenges that you have to get people to one, acknowledge, and two, find the tenacity to move past it, even though you know it's difficult. So I don't know. I think I feel like I want to give you the opportunity to take that back. I don't, it could be wrong.
I appreciate that. I'm not taking it back, but I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
She's
That
like,
was
no, I don't
gracious.
like coach them. I don't like pushing people. I want to talk to them. But no, coaching, I feel I don't know. It's just what you're giving off is helping people find those opportunities to fix what's wrong, and you can't fix a problem until you acknowledge that you have a problem. So even though you didn't tell that coach, yes, I am tired, you knew what he was doing for you in that moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
You
I will give you this. I will give you this. I love to teach. So maybe coaching is a step further, right? But I do love to teach. I do love to identify and even hear from people. What is the problem? Okay, and then let's talk through how do we fix that. The coaching is the part where I have to be there when you are working to fix it and when you're not, and then we both frustrated. That's the
yes,
part.
I got you. I felt that. I felt that. You work you work at the intersection of people, power, and process. What is one system you think we should just burn to the ground and rebuild from scratch?
Oh my goodness. I am okay, Tanya. I'm gonna say
Like AAU
it,
basketball, but okay, I digress.
did you say AAU basketball?
Did I did? It has
Did
become
you
such a
say
I did. I said that. I'm so sorry. The
you
current
want
system
to burn it to the ground?
the current system is so highly monetized. You don't think so?
I agree with you. And
Okay. Well,
because you're
I'm
talking
just
about travel ball, quote unquote
yes.
now.
Yes. Yes.
I do agree. I
Okay.
hundred
So
a
so let's
hundred
find
percent agree.
something like that in corporate world. I want you to tell me another system that should be burnt to the ground and rebuilt from scratch.
Okay. This is real easy. My specialty area is helping first time people leaders. Well, and
Okay.
they're not even leaders yet because if you've never led people, then you're not a leader. Because if you think you're leading and you turn around and nobody's following you, you're just on a walk. So first time people managers, that's where my specialty is. What happens that we should burn to the ground is people being promoted
Mm.
who one are not good with people and
Imagine that.
two mm, don't have leadership plans in place that teach them how to build relationships over responsibilities and results.
Yeah.
That should be burned to the ground. So the whole selection process for leadership positions should be burned to the ground and rebuilt from the ground up because people don't know how to most leaders and most HR people and most recruiters don't know how to find leaders. They don't know what to look for in a conversation with a leader. I can tell you right now, Tanya, if I'm having a conversation with a potential leader, with somebody I'm about to promote to be over people, and I don't care if it's one person, and I can ask the question about what you would have done differently or need to do differently, either in your past role or in a previous relationship or an interaction, and you start off with telling me about the other person,
Mm.
you not ready to be a leader of people. You're not, because you don't know what this whole ownership word means, which all great leaders need to have a very strong sense of personal ownership and accountability. Because when you step into leadership, everything is your fault. Sorry. It may not be it's your responsibility. You may not have done it, but you have to own it. And if they're your people, you have to own it. If you're not willing to have that mentality and then help those people to be better so that the next thing you own is better than whatever mess you had to own with them before, you're not ready. And so that whole selection process, and then the whole process of starting first time people managers off well in their first year needs to be revamped. Because did you know that 60% of first time managers fail in their first 2 years?
Really? No, I didn't know
Like, that doesn't even make sense in my head. I would think most people going into a job interview would not say, if they were told, we want to offer you this job, we have this great salary for you, you're going to be leading a team, it's going to be awesome. And just so you know, in the next 4 months, you're probably going to fail out of this role. Who's
that.
taking that? Nobody. And it's usually because they don't have the support. So that whole process needs to be burned to the ground and rebuilt.
I could not agree more. I like your first comment. The leaders with no people skills. Okay, leaders with no people skills that do not know how to galvanize support around ideas and get things done. These people get placed in these leadership roles and they just absolutely suck. They're not good problem solvers and people do not follow them. Would you say they're on a walk? They just on a walk because ain't nobody following? Yeah, highly agree. Highly agree. They just out there roaming around, just twiddling their thumbs, talking to space because ain't nobody listening. And then they talking about them behind their back, and you start getting these clicks inside the organization. So yes, I
Yeah,
highly agree. Highly agree. Every
absolutely.
company, it feels like every company, every corporate company right now claims they want healthy culture. What is a brutal truth in your mind about culture building that most leaders refuse to accept?
Okay. So this may be controversial, Tanya. But I think they refuse to accept that exclusivity is okay.
Talk about it.
What do I mean by that? Okay. So I'll use, okay, I'm going to use this. And this is why I say it might be controversial. I was listening to your podcast. I went back some episodes. Great podcast, by the way. Those of you all who are already listening to this, you've already listened. But if you just happen to tune in to the Leaders and Learners podcast. It's great. But I was listening to an episode where you all were talking about, you had a panel of ladies on, and the conversation around Victoria's Secret was being talked about. And it was talking about the inclusivity of now the models that they use. And as I
Mm,
was listening to that, I thought, I take an opposite of however God has made you, we celebrate it. At the same time, if my culture, Victoria's Secret, had said and stuck to, we are only going to do size 6 models and under, that is all we are promoting to, and that our culture is that demographic, our culture says we want to make sexy for the small. I'm not saying that that's their culture, but that's their culture. It doesn't mean that they don't make clothes for those of us who are like athletes. I'm 6 feet tall. I have not seen a size 6 since I was like 4. I don't even know right. Like I can't shop it. I can't shop at Victoria's Secret very often, right? But there, if you make sizes for me, but you don't cater to me, I make the decision if I want to support. But if it's a culture as a company, if I say I want to be exclusive to this group, and I create my culture around the mentality that we are exclusive in how we market, who we market to, how we interact with people, how we speak, that type of thing. And hopefully all of this is done with kindness and respect and profession. But to bring it back to the point of exclusivity, whatever we decide our culture is, if you don't fit in that culture, it's okay that you don't be here. And we don't have to open up our culture to include everybody, because then I don't have a culture. I have a compilation that doesn't have any particular direction. And I think that's what makes companies unique. I think that's what makes us successful, is that there's a space for everybody. Because even though my company culture may not fit you and it may offend you, there is a company culture that does fit you. Go find that one. And if you do fit mine, come to me, right? And I say that because I had to, and I'll finish that point about me thinking, okay, I think a little differently about that. If Victoria's Secret had never opened up to larger models and that type of thing, I would have been okay with that because, all right, I know that that's Victoria's Secret. I can go to Torrid or I can go to Lane Bryant and see the full figure as well as the small. Like there's a space for that. And I think we've gotten into a culture where everybody thinks being accepted or being inclusive is required. And how does that set us apart? Because people don't pay for what are those called? What are those cars that start with an L, Tanya? It's not Lamborghini. It's something else that's really
Lexus.
expensive. No, this is really expensive. I may be thinking the wrong letter to start with, but like these are like $300,000 vehicles.
Like a
They're
Bugatti.
not. Look, thank you. There we go. We can go with that. Okay.
Okay.
God, they're not marketing to everybody. Their culture of their company doesn't include everybody, and nobody gets mad at them. They just say, okay, that's what it is. And so I think that the hard truth is for owners, for founders, for presidents, as well as for individuals, those of us who are considering cultures, being part of culture, it's okay to be exclusive and say, we accept this in our culture and we don't accept this in our culture. Because one thing I had to learn when I was a new manager and firing people on a regular basis, because Tanya, one of the first companies I worked for where I was a leader, like they fired people like they changed pants every day. It was a hot mess. You lived in fear, not a good culture. But I had to learn to be okay with, oh my goodness, I'm about to have a conversation where I'm affecting somebody's livelihood. I don't know what your bills look like. I don't know what your family situation looks like, but I'm taking away your income that I know of. And that feels horrible anytime you do that. I had to come to the realization, though, you have continually done something that you have made it clear this is not the culture for you. By me allowing you to stay here, I'm doing a disservice and keeping you in a place where you're not happy and we're not happy. So when I fire you, it is a release for both of us, whether you see it that way or not. It's the same thing for culture. So I say, be exclusive because you will choose who are right for your company and you will help those who are not find a culture that is right for them.
Listen, it's not controversial over here. And with that conversation about Victoria's Secret, our biggest issue was the fact that they tried to become so inclusive and didn't tell the story about this switch that they made. So to be clear,
Mm,
they've been very, we love all women, but we know visually that's not the story they were telling. And recently they came out and did this whole exclusivity thing, but without any conversation, like where did the adjustment in your culture come from?
mhm,
It was a weird transition for many people. And then after they relaunched, then I think the owners dropped a book about how they
mm,
decided to make the culture change, but it was like really weird and non-sequential.
mhm.
So definitely the inclusivity piece, which is a serious PR and marketing issue because we want you to have a target audience. You
Yep.
cannot want everybody, but only serve a certain amount of people. That does
Yeah.
not serve your company culture well. And it's very confusing to the audience. And once the audience gets confused and your customer, your target customer, then your profits get confused because we don't really know what you stand for because you're just all over the place. So I'm sure your
Yep.
employees are probably confused too because they don't even know who they're talking to. This is a whole mess. That is literally what the Victoria's Secrets conversation was about. It was like, this is a whole mess. What is going
Hmm.
on? Relaunches. What story are you telling and who are you talking to? Because y'all clothes ain't fit me in a cool minute and I don't even know what's going on right now. Like what just happened? That's that was that conversation and it's exactly what you're saying, which is it's okay to be exclusive
Hmm.
because then you know who you're talking to, who you're
Yeah.
catering to, who you're serving, who you are not. And that allows for them to decide to be served somewhere else. And back to
Hmm.
what you do, which is the culture inside of the building, inside of the company, it allows for people to be in alignment with what is going on with the company in totality. I want to ask you really quick, and if you don't feel comfortable answering this, but I just dropped a little reel talking about organizations that seem to be bending the knee with this current administration to get whatever it is that they're trying to get, mergers or whatnot. And they tend to drop their signature programs, DEI programs, or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
to be able to capitulate to what this administration wants. And I don't know if you've dealt with this inside of your organizations that you are leading in, but eventually power changes. So when you've changed your values with the
Mhm.
company, how do you deal with once administration change and leadership, government leadership changes, and you've kind of shimmied around your own corporate values? Like, how do you get that back, or do you?
I don't think you do, right? I think it's the same thing as trust, right? It Trust is when you first earn it, when it's first earned, it's like a glass. Beautiful, seamless,
Hmm.
transparent. You can see
Smooth.
through it, smooth, strong
Yep.
structure. Glass doesn't have to break, but when you break trust, now we got cracks.
That cracks.
As you rebuild trust, you might fill the cracks in with some glue, whatever else material may help make sure those cracks don't get any bigger, but you still see the cracks.
Yeah.
No longer smooth, no longer transparent as it was. There's still fissures in there that you run your finger along, there's now tension.
Feel it. Yep.
And so it's the same thing. It's similar to what we were just talking about. What do people need to be courageous enough to say about my culture? Be courageous enough to stand behind it. So, just talking about DEI and with the changes with the administration. So, 2020, we have George Floyd, we have the boom of DEI because we are pandering. Yeah. And then we have a change in administration and we have a vacuum suck of DEI. Let's go back to the beginning. Why should I trust you in the beginning when you all of a sudden make this a priority and you didn't before? That's where
Yep.
that's where the distrust comes from. That's where the questions should start. Why is this now a priority when it wasn't before? Okay, if you want to stand behind, oh, we're aware now. No, you are you're doing PR well. That's what you're doing. Good job. And
Until you're not.
so
You're doing it well until you're not.
until you're not. And so now that you are changing wishy washy, I shouldn't have trusted you in the beginning. I definitely don't trust you now. And so, how do I get this back? You stop changing your standard. You decide what you're going to stand behind. Are we going to be focused on the diversity in our organization? Is that a priority for us? And if it is, you stand behind it. However, you stand behind it 10 toes down. If you're not, stand behind that.
Right.
Be be non-diverse. Whether that's going to work well for you or not. Be the one who's going to say, we're going to shut the door and we only want this in our culture, in our company. But be bold enough and courageous enough to
Say that.
stand behind that. And then say it, right? And let the chips fall where they may. Then we can trust you. But once you wish you wash from the start till now, we promoted DEI and using that as an example, now it's a problem. So we're going to pull it back. Now you have created mistrust. You have created a situation where, as we were just talking about, interior inside the organization, I don't know who you are. I don't
Yep.
know how I'm to lead. I don't feel comfortable and confident because I work with a company and a culture that changes with the wind, and that's never going to be successfully sustainable. Companies can last, but your turnover is going to be so high that you're deciding to give some of your profit margins over to the continual revolving door of people because you haven't decided how you're going to stand. And that not to say things can't change. Leadership can change, values can change, cultures can change, but it has to be consistent, it has to be honest, and it has to be willing to admit we didn't see before or previous leadership didn't see before, and this is how we're going to move forward and we're going to stick with that.
I would rather work for a company that had no DEI program than to work for a company that had DEI and then got rid of it because someone else asked them to. That means you never stood behind it from jump. You never, it was never even a
Correct.
part of who you are. I'd rather a company that didn't embrace DEI and just said I'm hiring the best people than to say, oh, we're so diverse and this is our culture. But the minute someone tells you to get rid of it, you dump it. You have no spine, you have no backbone, and you're not going to stand up for what's right when it comes down to it from the jump. But we could talk about this all day. I feel like I could just talk to you forever. We might have to have a part two. Let me ask you, do you have anything coming up that you need some support for, or how people can get in touch with you? And who is your ideal client?
Yeah, no, thanks. Yes, Tanya, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. As I said, you guys tune in, tell people about the podcast. It's so great. Um, my ideal client are companies, organizations, whether you're a for-profit company, a nonprofit, college organization, but you have individuals who are stepping into leadership for the first time. And that's my ideal client. Those companies and then those individuals who work for you who need to know how to lead people well and who you need to lead people well in order for your company to continue to be successful without pain that is unnecessarily caused when brand new managers start to lead without training. And so what do I have coming up? I am testing out, Tanya, as you talk about the coaching, I'm testing out in the new year to do, it's essentially a coaching program where I'm doing a 3 or 6 month offer for companies to send their first time managers to me to provide that coaching that sometimes falls through the cracks from their immediate supervisor or their immediate manager, where I'm teaching them not just the leadership aspect, but the rules of being a manager. You know, those things where people don't tell you about, you can no longer have conversations that you used to have with your peers. You can't have those same conversations as a manager now. Those rules about confidentiality in conversations, those rules about documentation that, 3 months later you have a problem and you're like, but this person did this. You didn't write none of it down. Nobody believes you. It didn't exist, right? And so these are the rules that new managers, nobody tells them, that they learned the hard way and that cost companies lots of money. And I'm testing out a new program where I'm walking individuals through the rules as well as the relationship building of being a brand new manager in 2026. So if people are interested in that or companies are interested in that, they have those people who you've got people in the first year of management. And I'm testing out the coaching. We'll see how it goes, but I know it's going to be super beneficial for individuals to be a part of. So
I
they
love
can reach
that.
out and connect with me to find out more.
All right, give them your socials and how to get in touch with you.
Easiest way is LinkedIn, Kaneshi Hart, as you guys can see on the screen, but that is the best way for you to reach out to me and get in touch with me because I am not a social media person. And so LinkedIn is where I live. That's it.
I'm not mad. It's like a wild, wild west out there, girls. Wild, wild west. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. We have enjoyed you so much. Please stay in touch. And if there's anything else we can do to support you, we are here for it.
Thank you. And all continued success with what you're doing. Continue to bring these amazing conversations to the world. They are much needed.
With amazing people like you, that's what we plan to do. Thank you, ma'am. You guys have a great day. Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What do you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you and we'll see you soon.